Hi, Anne.
Hi, Hilary. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, how are
Good,
you
good.
doing?
Pretty good. Just here trying to figure out everything with my little project there.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'm doing good.
Good. Good. Well, we're here celebrating, number one,
Yay!
celebrating that we finished the fundraising campaign. Finally.
Absolutely. Finally. Yes. So we reached our goal, and I just wanted to say thank you to all the people who have donated and supported, and thank you, and I just am so happy to know that we reached this point where everything is done, and to see where we go from here.
Yeah. And I'm really excited to see your fixed slash new computer.
Absolutely. Yes, and I don't have to keep bundling with the little phone device here.
Yeah. So we probably won't, maybe we won't do another session or gathering until your computer's fixed. Just
Right.
so that, like, because we're at this turning point for us in Grace Between Races,
Mhm.
and that feels like maybe a great way to celebrate the kind of emerging of the next phase of Grace Between Races as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
So we'll keep everyone up to date. I'm sure Anne will, and you'll have a lot more capacity
Yeah.
after that. So that'll be great. And
So,
and
yeah.
thank you everyone, because who knows what could happen, like you're saying. Who knows what Graceful Teen Races will become.
Will become absolutely. And it's just we need to, like, for me personally, I'm working on a project right now, and of course it's happening in December, so it's taking a lot of my focus, and some of the time um, there. And I really, it's, as I was saying to Hilary before, it's a big dream that I've always had. And you know, it's going to bring us back to the topic for tonight, which is balance, is how to balance what we feel we are called to do, and our spiritual work, or practice, that keeps us grounded, and with the outer work, which is taking actions and doing the everyday things in life. So yeah, it's just right now it's a lot going on, and I feel like I need to be in this space right now where I'm being authentic to my purpose, and taking specific actions into seeing that come true.
That's wonderful. Well, if this past, what, 10 months of doing this work has supported you to move closer to living your purpose, it seems like there's a lot of um, benefit there.
Yeah, a lot of grace.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear how it goes and to be here to support your process too over the next couple months. And so you'll be doing it's like a holiday fair, right?
Yes, it's in December 7th. Yes, it's around the Christmas holidays, just before. And I will be showing all my creative work. It's the first time I'm doing something like this. It's the biggest project I've taken up so far.
Mhm.
And so I am making bags. I'm making um, things that I have been working on all for a very, very long time, but I haven't been able to pull it together, and do something with it. So it's like bringing all the pieces together and showing myself, putting it
Mhm.
outside there, and
Mhm.
my artwork, my food, all of those things. So
Wonderful.
it's it's really, yes, like a big step for me.
Yeah. Well, may it be abundant and easeful.
Yes, yes, yes. The time is right.
Yeah, definitely. And balance is such a big topic for me right now. So I've been doing this chaplaincy residency for over a month and a half now, about 7 weeks, and we're actually halfway through the first unit of 3,
Mhm.
and I'm um, growing a lot and realizing that, and I had a sense of this before I went into it, and yet there's a much deeper experience and trusting of this process of um, shedding layers of ego that I built up as I guess, cultivated or even pushed to make this expressive arts ministry uh, into a livelihood, and over the last several years, and also layers that I put on in divinity school after I did a 1 unit of this program, which is called clinical pastoral education, and I had a pretty good experience, but I also had a kind of traumatic ending to that experience, with the 2 men who were in my cohort who were very conservative Christians, and who basically rejected receiving a ritual from me in the closing, and um, caused me to really shut down around a wound that was about distrusting men. And I'm really sorry about that. I didn't even realize how deep that was for me, and this experience has been bringing that out more and more, and it's from my ancestral line, it's from other experiences in my life, from experiences of abuse, you might say, and yet I don't see these experiences and look at it and I'm not angry at those people, or how it happened. I see it as these opportunities to unearth this information, unearth that trauma that is not just from this lifetime, but is from many lifetimes and is also collective. And it is in this time that we are able to work with this information. And so I'm able to do this gender reconciliation work much more easily now, 10 years later, because of all the tools and skills and life experience and greater grounding that I have. I could now open this up more and blossom more myself as a person through this and within this container, while being in the hospital. That's not a context that I would choose and be excited to be in, and yet it's this very young environment, you might say, or kind of masculine, hierarchical, even patriarchal context, um, where it's very like top down, and they want to be bottom up in some ways, like patient centered, but people don't necessarily have a lot of practice doing that. Our education system doesn't help the cultivation of that kind of awareness. And the program I'm in as clinical pastoral education is really about listening and about following the patient and where the patient wants to go. And it's been incredibly powerful to learn these tools, and they'll serve me no matter what I do in my life. Um, so I'm seeing that, and I'm peeling these layers of ideas of who I think I am and what I think is important and what I have to do, and even do for self-care in some ways, and say, okay, what's really important right now, and who am I with right now? And Yeah, so it's good. It's good, and it's also challenging my notions of balance and what is it to be balanced. And um, yeah, it's not like I'm not experiencing extremes. There is some of that, and yet there's a stability because I'm getting paid partly. I'm not having to worry about that, and there's a greater security in that, and there's a structure, there's a rhythm and a routine being cultivated, and a practice within that, and an ability to be in my awareness practice and cultivation of staying grounded and open to be able to presently meet every person who I encounter. And I'm not saying I'm great at it. I'm learning a lot, and I'm having some profound experiences and connections, definitely. And um, but it's not because um, you know, I'm some hotshot chaplain or teacher or something. It's just because I'm like, wow, you're really going through a lot, and just listening as much as I can. Um, but that requires me showing up, like really showing up fully. And so yeah, there's a lot in there.
It sounds very expansive, like expanding, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well there's also the balance of life and death in there too.
Right.
And my one of my floors, I'm actually maternity, labor and delivery, and neonatal intensive care unit. So I'm really with birth and these incredibly amazing tiny humans that come into the world as like 1 pound and have to
Yeah.
be put on respirators and IVs and all of this and fight for life, and their parents are fighting with them, and it's challenging all my concepts of life, and then also being with people as they die as well, and helping them accept that's where they're going, um,
Yeah.
whether that's like today or that's in 10 years.
Right. Well, I mean, this is why we were talking about before we came on. It's um, how do we um, balance the heaviness of that that kind of experience and still pull back and take care of the self.
Mhm.
Finding that balance between what we have to face, whether it's the chaplaincy or real life situation, which brings up all those kinds of issues. It can bring up all those kinds of issues. How we cope and how we balance those things with without losing ourselves, you know,
Yeah.
in that and finding that balance to still self nurture and ground ourselves and all of that.
Yeah. Well, it's requiring me to be very good at dropping in quickly and
Yeah.
consistent as well with the daily meditation and yoga practice and other self-care, and taking whatever space I have to express myself as well and be really honest. And
Yeah.
um yeah, yeah, and it's bringing up a lot in my relationships. See, I'm not able to see friends so much. I moved away, and phone works, but and Ike and I aren't seeing each other as much, and he's really busy, and um I can't always travel to him, and so there's just a lot of like, well, what does balance mean now? What does balance mean today and this week? And then letting that shift next week and tomorrow,
right,
and not
right,
have any fixed ideas of what it looks like or feels like, because balance does not mean I'm hunky-dory and like happy, or I'm just like, you know, I'm totally flat and present and not letting anything affect me. It's really about being with all of life as it's moving through us, and allowing ourselves
right.
to be in that movement, to be that movement, and to not get, maybe tossed overboard,
Yeah,
excuse me, too often. But if that happens and we have to like take a day to rest, it's because it's needed.
exactly.
Right? So it's not because like, oh, we did something wrong. It's just more like, no, you just need to rest. And if we get sick, we need to rest.
Yeah,
It's and we don't want to get sick, so maybe resting more often, or finding other ways to support our bodies to experience balance and homeostasis more often
yeah,
would be beneficial. But that, for some people that looks like running, and for other people that looks like meditating.
yeah,
And at different times, it's different things.
yeah,
So there's no formula to any of this. And um, but I think there's a lot of good suggestions out there. But if it doesn't bring you alive and doesn't make your soul happy, then what's the point?
what's the point? Yeah, but I think in that with that, I mean, you're right. Like, there's no one formula for everybody. Um, People have to decipher what works for them with any given moment, based on what they're dealing with. And this is
Yeah.
how I basically handle my stuff. I mean, because sometimes you're faced with something that you haven't faced before, or haven't faced in that way before, and it calls for you to adjust in a different way, and that's very individualistic, where you have to know what that is pointing you towards. What works best for you within that context.
Yeah. And I think this is ultra true for race reconciliation work. And so I want to bring us back around to that, because that's why we're here. And of course, you and I could have these conversations all day long and talk about things that aren't necessarily race related, and yet here we are holding this forum called Grace Between Races. And how are we finding balance in this work that we're doing, and how are we continuing it? And
Right.
I were talking about this earlier, and I'm in a, I mean, we were always holding that question, so that's first of all. And then also, I'm holding that question from the context of being in this program that, I mean, I was inspired to do because it would bring me what some people say below the tofu curtain in Massachusetts, which is below where the hippies all live, where they're kind of bougie hippies, where they can like, we can avoid the reality of segregation, and what so many people of color are dealing with, because we have enough money to live in the woods and to create this separate life. Whereas down in Springfield and Hartford, or kind of Holyoke, Springfield, Hartford, New Haven, Connecticut area, like, there's a lot of white areas in Connecticut, and I actually live in one, so I'll claim that and acknowledge it. I live with my friend here in Glastonbury. The experience of going into the city is very different, and the hospital is really on the border between a very wealthy area in West Hartford and one of the poorest areas of the city as well. And it's very poignant when you walk that line. And the hospital is an incredibly diverse environment, and it's this beautiful, perfect ground for exploring, like, what is reconciliation around race, especially because of that line that the hospital lands on. And I was all excited to be doing it, and I brought in my reflections on 2 different patient visits that I had with families of color, and had written out all these reflections and thoughts, and thought was like really honest about my experience, and my cohort, you know, they dug into it with me. They really did, and I was really grateful. And I have to acknowledge that, you know, 3 of us are white, and 2 people are Nigerian men. And so they're not African Americans, and they have a very different life experience than African Americans do. And one of them is new in the country as of a year and a half or so. And so he's really waking up a lot. And I think it was hard for him to see that reality, and to realize how he'd experienced racism, and that he can't avoid it. And it was bringing up that pain for him. And I wasn't, you know, putting it out there because, oh, I need him to feel that pain or to wake up or anything. It was just, this is my truth, and this is what I think about because I've been focusing on this work. And there was a number of things that happened all that week around, like, our event happened this week, and I did Awakening through Racial Reconciliation with Calvin, and it was a kind of culmination. And I got some really strong feedback from the group that it's too much, you know, it's too much for us. Like, step back, like, and reflect about your motivation for doing this work too. And as hard it was to hear that, like, I resisted it, and I got defensive, and I was like, I need to see, I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, show me proof, you know, what was too hard for you? Like, tell me specifics. And, you know, and they could sort of, and they said I generalized, and there was a lot of different pieces to it, but in the end, I took it in, and I sat with it, and I noticed that, you know, part of me wanted to be acknowledged for doing this work. And part of me wanted to, like, and this is really hard to say, but, like, part of me felt like I couldn't, like, save myself, you know? And so I wanted to help other people. And that's hard to acknowledge. And, you know, that there's this, like, rescuing part of me. And it's not that, like, I think that I'm rescuing people of color or anything like that, but more of like, oh, I need to do something in the world to, like, be a better person, you know, and to get acknowledgement for that. And that's why I didn't do activism in the first place for most of my life, and why I waited so many years for this work to just naturally emerge and arise, and how it did with you, and how graceful it has been in so many ways. But yet I still got this, like, stop, reflect, like, tension. And it took me into a much deeper place. And Ike was telling me the same thing. You know, I was playing this out on him in our relationship too. And so I've dropped in deeper, and I see that balance for me is about stepping back more from the work, and doing more self-care, and seeing where I can support myself so that I can show up more wholly, more whole, to hold space for just what is. And while it's important to acknowledge the cultural dynamics that are in place, sometimes it's important to just totally just be there, you know? And So that's what I'm doing more, and I'm having incredible connections and experiences with people of all different backgrounds and experiences. And
Right.
um,
And I applaud you for taking those those having the courage to do that kind of exploration. For me myself, I didn't go to a chaplaincy or something structured like that to do it. It's totally um, self-motivated in some ways, but self-motivated based on circumstances that was very hard, and I chose to look and research and find the higher purpose for everything,
mhm,
and that led me on a path, and the path has taken me in some very caused me to look at myself in very, in all kinds of different situations, but to be very totally, as you say before, very honest, gruelingly honest with myself, and looking at how a lot of what we create in this reality is based on how we think and how our mind works. And so shepherding my thoughts is really like part of my big, um, like I take this very seriously now because in the past when I was disconnected, um, that had my thoughts were like you say, it's like a monkey mind, it's all over the place, it's running crazy, only thinking, and when I hit my 50s, it went into it took on a different, very a different kind of structure. It just affected me in a whole different way, and I was forced to go within deeper, and really ask myself some personal questions. And through the work the research and stuff that I have always been doing, it kind of led from one thing to the other thing. And I didn't shy away, even though some of it was really hard to face. I mean, it's so much easier to blame other people and outside situation for your circumstances. It's so much easier sometimes, but it's not the answer. This is what I found, and you can't pretend when it comes to these things. You can't manipulate your way through it. You have to open up yourself and be brilliantly honest. And it started to show me where my kinks were and where my shortcomings. I mean, those things are painful when you're looking at it. To be quite honest, um, many cries, many self-reflection, um, and I sit with the discomfort. And through learning to sit with the discomfort, it showed me that I am not my circumstances. I am not my thoughts. I am not the things that people project to me. I am not none of those things. I am the awareness that is observing stuff, and those things cannot affect me unless I attach to it.
mm,
And so when I sit with non-attachment, I am in my own presence. I'm neither in the past nor in the future, but I'm in the moment. I'm in the present moment.
mm,
And this is where my power lies. I mean, this is where
mm.
all of our powers lie.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but this doesn't, like as I was saying before, it's not something that you will hit one time and you have got it and you become so full of yourself and think that you conquered something. I mean, this is a process, and sometimes you get swing in and swing out, swing in and swing out, which I have been for quite some time, and it caused me to ask whether this is working, or is this really effective? And I come to realize that it's practice. Every time you sit in your own presence and you remain there for any period of time, you strengthen that aspect of yourself. And when you go back into that egoic state, it's not as strong. There's something that shifts, you know, and until it keeps getting better and better and better. Maybe there are people who have experienced that one time thing and that burst stuff, and they just end up without the ego having, that kind of problem. But for me, that has not been my experience. My experience has been the back and forth, the back and forth, the back and forth, and having to work diligently with myself and taking those steps to heal
Yeah.
towards healing. And so,
Yeah. They call that the gradual or immediate path in Buddhism. And I think, and I hear from other teachers, that it's both. So there are these immediate moments of finding
yes,
freedom in the now.
yeah,
And then there's the gradual of integrating that awareness more and more and more, where it becomes easier and easier to stay fully present.
yeah,
And some say that there's a level at which you can stay there,
yeah,
most of the time, or if not all of the time. Maybe that's
right.
some state of enlightenment, but I don't know what that is myself. So, yeah, I've certainly read about it a lot. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we are all on on this journey, this path towards. Really, it's not really a path at all. We are what we are searching for. We already have it. So we think it's a journey going somewhere to find something, but really that is not true. Based on what I have experienced, is that when you sit with yourself, it's really the most normal thing to be not in non-resistant, and just be the observer of what's around and not be attached to anything. But it really takes a lot of courage, and certainly I don't want to paint a picture of it's all hunky-dory, because I mean, life, we all dealing and we all coming through different kind of circumstances, and all those things have a way of coming up, and you having to face it in a conscious way, and not push away things. And this is where addiction and all the whole rest host of the problem we have in humanity. This is where it all goes downhill when we do stuff like that, and we get sick, and all of these things. So, remaining in the state of non-resistance is really our normal state. Is being that spaceless, non detached, freedom, freeness, but yet this is the very thing that we are struggling to within ourselves to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think
So,
the mic is making a weird noise. It's like a rubbing noise.
okay,
Just so you know.
okay.
I just wonder if you took the mic out, it might stop. I stopped pretty fine earlier. Yeah, that's much better. It was really kind of annoying. Anyways, yeah, um, yeah, and I just want to bring us back to, like, where are we going with Race Between Races, and
Yes.
where is our movement taking us?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I know because we've talked about it, that we're not going to have any regular gatherings. Um,
Right.
so I'm hearing a little bit of an echo, but I think it's okay. Um, we're simply going to continue having these conversations, and if someone comes along and we think, yes, we want to have this gathering with them, then we'll organize it and we'll do it because we're inspired to do it.
Right.
And yet we're not going to kind of make it happen in the same way because I know I don't have the bandwidth and I need to just let myself go with the flow more outside of my work
Yeah.
content. Um, and sounds like you're in a similar place too.
I'm in a similar situation too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that works for me just fine. Whenever we are called to, we set a time to do the dialogue, and then whenever something comes up, if we feel moved to bring that person on and have a gathering, that's fine.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens next. Actually, Calvin and I might be doing Moving in Grace, Awakening Through Racial Reconciliation or something like that at Yale with students down there. So, yeah, I'm not sure if that will happen, but there's some possibilities there. Um, and I want to keep reflecting because this is great space for integration and conversation, and I would miss you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you, of course, for all of your incredible practice and steadiness and consistency and strength of love, and also want to let people know that Jimmy Two Feathers and I are also going to do this Brothers and Sisters Gender Reconciliation Council weekend, November 8th through the 10th, and we're moving forward with that. And if it doesn't happen, it's not meant to happen. But we're excited to be doing work around gender as well, and looking at how do we hold this spectrum that our culture has created into a duality, and who are we now if we break out of that duality? So let's acknowledge it and move beyond it and let our bodies also move with that experience and explore that experience. Yeah, and we'll see where any of this takes us. Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I want to say thank you again to everybody who have donated and supported, even supported in the sense of the gatherings, and everything was well received. I feel really grateful for the opportunity to share with you guys, and to listen to what everybody brought to the gatherings as well.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I've learned so
And
much.
thank you, Hilary, too, for being such a good sport and for holding space, and, you know, both in front of the camera and behind the scenes, and, being a good source of, example, a mentor.
Mm. Oh, well,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, I've learned so much from you, and
Same here.
there's no way I would have done this work without you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, until next time.
Until next time, yes,
Bye.
we'll keep you abreast of what's taking place.
We sure will. Check it out at Grace Between Races. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.